So today we're going to talk about a gem called Paranoia and how you can use it to basically archive stuff in your application or do soft deletes, as they're sometimes called. So in a previous episode, we built this forum and we have a bunch of forum threads. And if you click on a thread, there's posts by users. And we keep track of who created what. So the thread was created by me, Chris Oliver, and I made the first post, and then the second post was by a test user. We had a few conversations testing different things, and what happens here is that if test user deletes their account, and we can simulate that by running the Rails console and saying user.last.destroy. Once we do that and we refresh the page, this is now broken because we have the forum post.user.name in our view, and what this is saying is undefined method name for nil class, which means that we called name on something, and that thing was nil, so forum post.user was nil. And if we look at the forum post, we have a user ID, so it's trying to see that the user exists. And now when we call forum post.user, it does a query for users where the ID is number 2, and there is none. So we get a nil, and then we say nil.name, and of course we get the same error as here. So how do we go about solving this problem? Now, there's a handful of different ways you can do it. And one thing you'll see, for example, on Reddit, is to take this and put an if statement around it so that rather than just printing out the username, you could say if forum post.user.present, then we'll display the forum post.user.name. Otherwise, we'll just print out something like deleted user. And this will return the deleted user string when there's no user. Otherwise, it will work as we expect. And we can go and update our views to do this. And you could build a helper method for it or make a presenter to make this a little prettier. But you're introducing if statements into your application, and you have to be aware of that because that causes more problems down the road. So now we have this where it says deleted user and this is updated. But when it comes to, and this is a trivial example, when it comes to things like financial information and you're recording payments and things like that, you actually can't just straight up delete your users because you need their names and email addresses for things like that. So that's something you have to be very aware of. So what we're going to use in this episode is a gem called Paranoia. Now there's an old gem called Axis Paranoid that was rewritten by a handful of people, and it's a very lightweight gem now, and it's amazing. There's really not much to it. This is all there is. One file of code, which is under 225 lines, so that's great. Easy to debug and definitely flexible enough. Now, this gem basically does soft deletes or archiving. So rather than just straight up deleting the record from your database, you add a field called deleted at, and if this field is nil or null, then your record is not deleted. But if it does have a timestamp in there, then that means that record was deleted. So then what happens is you just query all of your you make your updates to your queries. So if this thread, for example, had Paranoia on it, you could say it was deleted at whenever, and then you could have the forum thread section only show the ones that aren't deleted. So let's go ahead and add this to our application. I'm going to grab the latest version of the Paranoia gem from Ruby Gems. Grab that for our gem file. Let's undo the change we just made there. And then jump to the bottom of our gem file, add in Paranoia. And here, actually, I'm going to go create that user again so that we can delete them and test things out once more. So we need to spell things properly. Confirmation. And okay, now we have that, and we can restart our Rails server after we run bundle and install the gem. All right, so we've got our Rails server restarted, and now we need to go run a migration to add the deleted at columns to our models. So what I'm going to do is let's first do this with forum threads, and we'll see how we can apply that to forum threads in a simpler fashion. So if we generate a migration for adding deleted at to forum threads, then we can just specify the deleted at column, and it's a date time, and we can run rake db migrate to add that. We need to run bundle exec rake db migrate because I have multiple versions of rake installed. And now that that's finished, we can hop back over to Chrome and take a look at what it requires to add this to our model. So another thing we want to do is add the index in that I missed. So to do that in development, we can just rake db rollback, and then we need to run that with bundle exec again. So we'll roll back that adding deleted at column, and then we'll open up the migration that we just created and paste in adding the index to forum threads on that column, because this index is important since you're going to be querying for this field all the time. You're going to always look for if it's null or not, basically. So this index will help the database index that column so that all your queries are faster, and it's very, very important that you add that. So we can take the axis paranoid now and put that into our forum thread.rb. And I'm just going to paste that in here at the top and go back to our terminal and run bundle exec rake db migrate. The BE shortcut is because I'm using ZSH, and it comes with a shortcut for that. So now we can go back to our forum threads, and if you look at the documentation, when you call destroy, it just sets the deleted at timestamp, and that's all. So now we can go into here, and I forgot to create that user apparently. Or no, I forgot to update the user's ID to match the one that we had before. So if we take the last user, when I created it, it got an ID of 4, but we need to update it because the original ID was 2. So we'll change the user over to that, and we're back in the same state we were before deleting the record. And you can see kind of how much trouble it causes when you delete records like that. So going back out to the forum threads index, let's go and grab the forum thread.last, which is our episode 26 announcement. So we're going to delete this forum thread, and we'll just go say destroy. So we did that, but the record came back. It still exists, and this time now it has the deleted at timestamp. If we come back to our page, you can see that it disappeared. And the reason it disappeared is because Paranoia sets a default scope, which isn't mentioned in the README here, but there is a handful of other scopes that you can have. So there's with deleted, only deleted, and these will give you either all records or only the deleted records. And by default, the scope is modified so that you only get undeleted records. Now, we need to take a little bit look at this and see what happens. Now, we deleted ID number 3, and we go and view that page, it's no longer available. So this has actually changed our full scope here so that when we say forum thread.find 3, it can't find it, and we get this error. And the error is the active record not found one. So it couldn't find an ID of 3, but if you notice here that it's also adding the condition that the deleted at column needs to be null. So imagine that you're having an admin account on the application and you want to say forum thread with deleted user.find3, and you'll actually get it back. So maybe admins use the with deleted scope and the rest of the users only see stuff that is not deleted. And maybe you have a section in your application that is archive threads, and maybe those are the ones that are all listed there. So only the deleted ones are listed in your archive section. So this is really nifty because it allows us to do a lot of stuff like this. And what if we want to restore that forum thread? So we could say forum thread.restore ID of 3, and this now updates the records deleted at to be nil. So it comes back. Now we want to go and see how to delete users because that's what we started with. And forum threads is a little bit simpler because we're just accessing the records directly from the model. Now with this though, we're going from the thread or the post and we're trying to talk to the association. And we have to update and override our association to handle this because we need to include with deleted in this case. So let's go ahead and add our migration here, and we'll create a migration to add deleted at to users, and we'll do the deleted at timestamp again. We can open up this file, and in Vim we can do the same thing. We can add the index to that column, save that, and then run rakedb migrate again. So now our users will be able to be soft deleted, and we'll have to go to the user model and add in the acts as paranoid method in here. And once we've done that, now we can run our Rails server or Rails console and grab that last user number 2, and destroy them. So they've been deleted, and now when we visit this page, we get the same error that we started with. And that's a little annoying because we know the record exists, and in this case, it's a public forum, so if you delete your account, that's fine, but we can still let you still keep your post up or show your name. Like, we'll just go with that because the content is public anyways. In some cases, you may want to truly delete it and replace these with placeholders, or just not show this post, for example. But in our case, we want to display the content even if it's deleted or not. And the way that we need to do that is to open up the forum post, and we need to override the getter that the belongs to user sets for us. So if you understand how belongs to works, you have a user equals method, and it takes some arguments, and then you have a def user method that doesn't take any arguments, and this is what returns the user.find on the user ID. So this user find getter is basically just calling that using the user ID column. So it's as simple as that. It looks at the method call and then, or it looks at the symbol, adds underscore ID, and then basically generates a method behind the scenes that does that. The user equals is very similar. It passes those over to, it passes your options over to user.create, and then it saves the user ID into a variable and then updates the forum post with that ID and so on. So you can create the user methods like that, but you can also override them. So belongs to, you could create by hand if you wanted, but we have this helpful association shortcut, but it doesn't allow us to find users that are deleted. So we can say with deleted find user ID instead, and this should allow us to refresh the page, and now it shows test user there still. So that's cool. This is one way of doing it. The example in their documentation in the Paranoia gem is to use unscoped and call super on it, which I think is a better solution. So here we would say, instead of product, we're going to do user unscoped and super calls the original method that we're overriding, and that original method would be from the belongs to. So if we come back and refresh this page, it works as we expected, and I would recommend using their example to do this, because the unscoped basically removes the with deleted at null condition, and then it calls with the original query. Now, the way you implement this is going to be very application specific. If you're doing things like Stripewood with payments, you probably want to keep those records around for tax season or anything like that. On the other hand, if you're doing something like a forum, you may want to actually delete the user's account permanently. So Paranoia is a perfect gem to kind of straddle that balance. You can use it at will on any models that you want. And you have all of these helper methods and other things like this, like really destroy ! allows you to actually delete the record. So it provides all of those things that you could want from a soft delete library, and I'm really happy with it. They've done a great job on it. So I hope this helps and you're able to add soft deletes into your applications as well.